Great, thank you, Lisa. So I guess the first thing is the meetings from our last minutes from our last meeting. Thank you. Which Carol pointed out I had spelled Rick's name incorrectly. Apologies to who I described as Pick Pacino. Was there any other comments to the minutes, proposed minutes? No?
No, then seemed
Can I get
fine.
a motion to change Rick's spelling, but otherwise approve the minutes?
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
I'll
great.
abstain since I missed the meeting.
Okay. I thought that perhaps we could start with Lisa's email, which I'm having a little trouble downloading on my phone. Let me see if I can pull it up here. She had a number of suggestions that I think are largely
Like me to share the screen with it?
That'd be great.
oh, that would be great.
Let me try this. I think, here we go. There you go.
Wonderful.
Great. I think most of these are non-controversial, and I think would be helpful to do. Let's just briefly run through them and see if we have comments, concerns. Consistent font and font size for same style paragraphs. Yeah, we don't need 7 different fonts. Lisa, if you would take on that laboring oar, I think that is, we could all agree on that. Any thoughts?
I had no problem with any of the cleanup, formatting, or the spelling and punctuation.
Okay. Indentation and general, clearly, again, they're kind of typographical fixes. Under spelling and punctuation, Article 5.1, change inshore to ensure. I don't know if everyone's looked at that, but I agree with Lisa that ensure is the appropriate language there.
I agree.
Okay. Change streetlights to streetlights without the space, that's fine. Punctuation, at least 10 corrections. I'm certainly on board with, well, let's just put it this way. I'm a little troubled by changing or adding or removing commas without specifically looking at them. Maybe that's just the attorney in me.
So any changes we make could be done in tracked changes before they were done. So you could review each one to see how you think about what that does to the readability.
That would be terrific. And then we don't need to meet again to, we can resolve any issues just by either a short Zoom meeting or just by email, I would think. The grammar usage and inclusiveness, I frankly am agnostic on that proposed change. Any thoughts?
I would very much appreciate the points 1 and 2.
I'm sorry, say that again, points 1 and 2.
Yeah, those changes for consistency in the second point, and the wording in the first point, I think would be clarifying improvements.
Okay, so that is change financial year to fiscal year, and then change the language in Article 1.2 to each officer of the district shall serve a 3-year term or until a successor is chosen and qualified. Is everyone fine with both of those changes?
Yeah, well, I am.
I'm not sure it makes a difference, but if somebody prefers one over the other, that's fine.
I am of that same view, but it sounds like we've got at least one person who would prefer that, so I'm okay with that.
Just to be specific, if you say all officers, that means only all 3 officers are referred to here, but sometimes it's just one officer that resigns, and you need to replace that one officer, not all 3 officers. It's nitpicking, copy editing, it's what I do.
I'm fine with it, and it sounds like the rest of the group is too.
Yeah, I like clarity.
Clarity is good. Okay, number 3, Article 8.2. I'm fine with this proposal.
Yeah.
Any nays?
No,
Okay, number 4, chairman to chairperson. I'm fine with that.
How about just chair?
Also,
I think chairperson is clunky. Why not just use chair?
I like that better, chair. Any thoughts?
no, chair is good.
Chair is
that
good.
works for me.
Okay,
She,
number
her.
5.
Says she, her.
Just so when we don't get into the we, them.
Right.
That's where I get totally lost.
Totally.
Yeah, you're right.
Yes.
I think chair means that we won't be changing chairperson at some point down the line. So we'll just,
Right.
we'll call it chair. Okay, and number 5, district should be capitalized uniformly, and I think that is a good suggestion. Now,
Alright.
this is other. Article 6.2, is calendar supposed to be fiscal? That is a great question. And frankly, I don't know that I'm equipped to make a comment on that. Have people read that?
This arises in the area of the annual report. And having just labored through a draft, I would very much appreciate clarification around this. Because right now, if the way it reads, I don't think we adhere to it. If it says calendar, then we've already missed the deadline for fiscal year 2021, which would have been the end of calendar year 2021. Unless it means that we don't have to have 2021 done until the end of 2022, which means published in the spring of 23, which gets us into, well, I'll stop.
So our entire operation is based on the July to June fiscal year. And
Right.
everything we report in the annual report and send to the clerk for publishing is based on fiscal year, July to June. I believe our reports are due to the clerk for this purpose in February or March. I can't quite remember what that date is.
February, I just sent mine.
Okay, so that has nothing to do with a calendar year, as far as I can see, but I've only been here for 4 years, so, and it could be that it is supposed to be calendar year, but I know that all the reports we've sent forward are based on the fiscal year. Do we
When
know?
That's
does
been
our
true for
fiscal
as
year
long as
end?
I've been on the board,
It's been fiscal year?
right?
But it's
Because
fiscal year from the previous year that gets reported at the May special districts meeting, right? Because we haven't finished the
Correct.
current fiscal year.
Correct.
Correct.
Well, so
That's where it
maybe,
gets confused.
yeah. Would you like me to pull up on the shared screen the bylaws to see that wording, or have you all reviewed it?
If you could pull it up, that would be helpful, I think.
Okay, hold on. Let me see what I can do. Uh-oh, hold on.
I reviewed it, but since you own our views right now, we can't go split screen.
Hold on. Hold on, sorry. Something just happened
Actually,
here.
I've got it up. I can read it to you all. It's very brief. It's one sentence.
Okay,
The clerk shall cause to be published all annual reports of all offices, officers, and committees of the district by the end of the calendar year. I'll read it again. The clerk shall cause to be published all annual reports of all officers and committees of the district by the end of the calendar year. We're clearly not complying with end of calendar year deadline.
Unless they mean the following calendar year, which takes us out to, he wouldn't have to then issue the report till the end of calendar year 22, which would be 6 months plus past the annual meeting, which gets us into Disneyland.
I created a problem by asking that question, didn't I?
No, you
Well,
identified one that I've stumbled over for 9 years now and never got around to trying to address because I was never sure I understood what it meant.
Why don't we
So
work
let me ask you
backwards?
this. I'm sorry.
Work backwards from when the report is published. Isn't it published just prior to the district meeting in May?
Right.
So when does it go to press? In March?
No,
No?
I would say for me, the first question is, what are we publishing? Which year is being published for the annual district meeting?
Previous fiscal year.
The previous fiscal year, so this coming May 2022, we're looking at the fiscal year of July 1st, 2021.
Nope.
No,
July 1st,
2020,
20 to
2020
2021.
to June 30th, 2021.
Right.
I'm sorry. Say that
Calendar year
again.
might make sense though, if you're saying that, we have the end of the district year in June or May, end of May,
End of June.
end of June, and then there's 6 months to compile the reports, do all the financials that you need to do. That's 6 months to get that done by the end of the calendar year. And then you've got another 6 months to draft it, edit it, publish it, have it ready for the next meeting. Is that, maybe that makes sense?
Financial reports are based on the fiscal year. The budgets are based on the fiscal year. So it's not possible to create reports about the calendar year if you're looking at fiscal year budgets.
So it's the reports of the year, but I'm just saying that the way I heard that, they're due, the reports are due. Is that the way it was reading?
The way you just interpreted it, Mark, doesn't fit with my experience. I'm never
Okay.
required to submit the draft for the fire department
Right.
until 2 months or a month and a half, 2 months after the end of the calendar year. So
Okay.
this is February 22. I just, 10 days ago, sent Charlie the draft of the annual report for fiscal year 21. He will now compile those, do whatever editing he
Okay.
does, or kick it back at us if it need a change, and it will be printed in March, April, and begin distribution either late April or May ahead of the annual meeting at the end of May.
Okay, and that's my experience too. In fact, I think tomorrow night at our water commission meeting, we're going to be going over the submission that we're like what you said you did.
So our bylaws are saying that piece that you just finished, Rick, and that you got, Mark, the water commissioners are working on, our bylaws currently say this should have been done by December, the calendar year.
Well, it's not clear even what calendar year they're referring to.
Right.
The one that ends right after the fiscal year or the following one, which would make those reports even more absurd. They'd be, 2+ years behind
Yeah,
what's going on.
that can't be right.
I think that we're all just delinquent and we're letting ourselves slide an extra couple months. And I mean, no harm, no foul. It gets done,
But maybe we should change the bylaws to say by the end of February, or,
nobody wants to do it around Christmas time and have
No.
that
Yeah.
deadline hanging over.
and I
their
don't
head.
know that all the numbers are in yet, because if the fiscal year ends, well, it should be in, because it's 6 months after the fiscal year ends, but you guys have been on the commissioners doing this. Does February feel more realistic than December?
It does.
I certainly would have hated to have that on my desk in the late fall of this year, along with everything else.
Yeah, this
It's-
is a good
it's
time of
bad
year to do
enough
it.
That it falls almost simultaneously with your first draft of a
Budget.
proposed budget.
Right.
So it's already plenty crowded.
Can I ask
Well-
you guys what prompted, and I note that I just saw today, Fran's proposed draft of her report. What prompted all of you to do this all at the same time?
Charlie sent me a request
Okay.
and asked that I get it in within the next, within the next couple of weeks from when he sent me the request, which was early this month.
Got it. It was, the clerk was asking for it.
I'm a
Right.
big believer in changing bylaws to fit the culture of the organization as the organization evolves. So I don't see any harm with changing this to the end of February. The February following the end of the fiscal year, the reports are due.
Having never done one of these reports, my only thought would be, this is probably the kind of change that we need to get sign off on at the annual meeting, because it is to some extent substantive.
Yeah, no, we've had to have even more minor changes than that approved by the annual meeting.
Yeah, I think you have to do some of the ones we're deciding to do anyways, Mark Lynch.
Okay.
Can you
Oh.
generalize the change to make it okay, such as within, the reports are due within dates requested by the clerk, and then you don't have to specify the month?
Probably cleaner just to say they're due by February 15th, due to the clerk by February 15th.
Or February 27th, 28th.
Uh,
I trust
What?
Charlie, but I don't know who's going to be clerk down the road. I don't want to give him
Well-
too
well,
much
that's
power
right.
to.
Every clerk might have a different preference, I guess.
Yeah,
I would put a date in.
I think I used to.
does
By the end
February
of-
15th work?
Or the end of February. Do you guys want the middle of February? Because if the water commissioners meet in the middle of the month, and as Mark Robinson just said, they're meeting tomorrow to do this, they would have had to do this in their January meeting, which might be too tight based on also having to get together the next fiscal year's budget. Correct me, Mark Robinson?
Yeah, no, that's right. I just say February 28th.
Last
I'm
day.
fine with that.
How about the last day of-
28th, following the end of the fiscal year, reports are due to the
Yeah.
clerk.
Yeah, that works for me.
Say it again, Mark.
All committee reports are due to the district clerk no later than February 28th, following the end of the fiscal year.
Okay.
I guess that we have committees and commissions within the district.
Can I get a motion to change that section of the bylaws?
So
Or
moved.
recommend the change?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, I will do a little bit of wordsmithing, but recommend that and see change at the annual meeting. So far, we've kind of been talking about what I consider to be typographical and grammatical changes, with the exception of the one we just discussed. Does anyone think that we need to have these approved? Any of the ones we've discussed approved at the annual meeting, or can we just go ahead and do these? Perhaps the insure versus insure one.
Actually, we don't insure anything.
Right.
We attempt to insure. So I think that was a mistake. We don't insure that. We
Yes.
attempt to insure it.
Right.
So the
I
question
think-
is, does it need to be approved at the annual meeting, that change?
Maybe
That's
what we're gonna do is just have a general, amendment and restatement of the district bylaws. So we're,
I think the clerk can help you with this,
Okay.
or should be able to. The one question I have, and I know we just spent a lot of time on the, Lisa, can you scroll this page down to where we were, the 6.2? The article 6.2 is calendar supposed to be fiscal. The way we changed it, there's one other word in that article that talks about the clerk to have published. We're not having it published by then, the February 28th.
Yes, that's correct. We agreed that the reports will be due to the district clerk no later than February 28th.
Okay,
Not-
so we're changing
public.
how it reads, which I'm having trouble getting it pulled up again, get this shrunk. Anybody have it nearby on a second screen? I can't, when we're sharing screens, I can't get out of the view.
Yeah.
I've
I'll
got
read
the
it again.
bylaws here.
Okay, so can you read
Okay.
that 6.2?
Let me
There you
just
go.
get, oh, wait a minute, past it, sorry.
Cause to be published. So we're not saying that, we're saying
Shall
eternity.
cause to be published all annual reports by the end of, so he does not send this to Lu Jin, to the printer to get printed by the end of the calendar year.
Right. So we're not even, we're not even talking about when the commissioners need to get it to the clerk. We're talking
Yeah.
about when the clerk needs to get it to the publisher.
Yep.
So we answered a question that really wasn't answered, asked. So I think that, I don't know when he publishes it, but I would say before the annual district meeting.
That's a great change of wording. Shall
Yes.
cause to be published before the annual meeting.
Following the fiscal year, or whatever you want to say.
Right. Section 3 indicates shall subsequently be published in the annual report of the district. So some sort of language like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it will be something along the lines of, and I will send out proposed language. We should have a fixed date here for the cause to be published. The clerk shall cause to be published by March, or by 30 days prior to the annual meeting.
Yeah, I think that's much better, because even section 3, we're not in compliance with, because it says it's supposed to be within 90 days of the close of the fiscal year.
Mhm.
That's true.
Mark,
that
we have
means-
the structure of the sentence you just proposed sounds fine to me, but we have the opportunity to just touch base with Charlie ahead of locking in
Yes.
a time. And he, I'm sure, could tell us if it's regularly done, a month, 6 weeks, whatever, ahead of the annual district meeting. He'll know.
Okay.
And I would be perfectly happy adopting whatever that timeline is that he's used all these years.
Right. I mean, the key word in section 3 is the clerk shall make available said report upon request within 90 days of the close of the fiscal year. Well, that's not happening.
Right.
Yeah,
So that's more of the problem word. And then shall subsequently be published in the annual report of the district, which is fine. That leaves it open to be published whenever. So it's
Correct.
that 90 days, because if the fiscal year closes June 30th, 90 days later is July or September.
Right, there's where using calendar year actually is more consistent with reality.
Yes.
Maybe we should defer this until somebody
Charlie.
has a discussion with Charlie, the clerk, and ask him, what is your operational calendar that you operate under? He must have a hard deadline to get that report out before the annual meeting. So
yeah.
as I said, working backwards from that, what's reasonable? And maybe our February 28th deadline is reasonable to codify, but let's ask his opinion before we start monkeying around with all these dates here.
Yeah.
Right, because section 2 and 3, he can give us what's been the standard operating framework.
Right.
And then we can just structure the language around it so that it's consistent.
I'll be happy to talk to him. Mark, did you say that you were planning to speak with him as well? Or,
No,
okay, I'll talk to Charlie. Lisa,
you
thank
don't know
for-
me yet, Mark, but my idea of a good meeting is one where I come out of it without a task.
Okay. Well, that is
Mark.
brutally honest. That's always been my goal too, but I've never expressed it. So I commend you. All right, I'll talk to Charlie, see what he says about this. The upshot is that we all agree that we should change the language to something commensurate with what we are currently doing. And that not require reports being done before the end of the calendar year. But let's see what Charlie says about this.
Yeah.
And more
I get that.
importantly, though, Mark Lynch, is to not have that 90-day restriction in there at the end of the fiscal year.
Yeah,
Because no, you guys aren't going to want to work on this for September.
That's for sure.
We
The
know that
budget
there
stuff
are
wouldn't even be done.
Right.
people who
Lisa?
love to point out where the district is not meeting its own bylaws. We know that. So let's try to fix the bylaws to make it more operational.
all right. I will
So-
talk to Charlie.
So I think I heard you ask me to make some of the formatting changes. And I would just like to have which ones you want me to do. I would also give you a caveat. The bylaws that Charlie provided are in an ancient doc format that I had to convert into a docx version. If I proceed to make some of the formatting changes that you've approved, I'm wondering if Charlie's going to be able to work with the bylaws moving forward if he doesn't have that software. I also have found when I converted to that docx version to do what I did for you guys, I was blocked from track changes. So it is protected in some way. I could convert and do a workaround and revise that, no problem there, to produce a track change document. But I don't want to do that if it blocks Charlie as the clerk from doing whatever he does. So,
Which brings up a question is, should Charlie be doing these changes and not you, Lisa, as the clerk?
that's not a question for me. I am very detailed oriented, and I can tell that any additions that have been made to the bylaws are wonky. I mean, they're done with space, or tabs, or, so, some of us have certain skills, some of us have other skills. I'm willing to help with cleaning it up, but I don't want to create a problem for the powers that be. So I need you guys to direct me on that.
Sounds like, Lisa, maybe you and Charlie and I need to get on a call and determine, I'll talk to Charlie, but also determine what version of, I think everyone should have doc.x by now, right?
Yes.
So we if Charlie
Maybe
doesn't,
he's-
we should,
Yeah, maybe he's just opening up a version that converts to that. And okay, so yeah, Mark, let's coordinate, and I can maybe send a docx version to Charlie first and say, can you open this and use it? And then we can go from there.
great.
All right.
And then Lisa, if you can bring back your PDF again, I think we can basically move on everything except for a couple of items.
Okay.
That is, move forward. And my proposal is that we move forward on all of these with the exception of
Go down
Article
lower.
5.1.
I mean, 5.1.
5.1, but we've agreed to move forward on that, but we also agreed that it requires a change at the annual meeting.
So
So
that would
when I
be
say
one-
move forward, I mean, we're
that-
gonna ask Lisa to make these changes. All of them on this PDF with the exception of Article 5.1, 1.2, and 6.2. And if I can get a motion to that effect,
So
we
moved.
can move. Seconded,
Yeah, can I ask what the number under other number 2 clarity, numerous opportunities, however, these aren't addressed nor suggested here. I don't really want to vote on something that we haven't addressed.
agreed.
suggested.
That should be excluded from the motion as well.
A lot of the language is very vintage from the 30s, 40s, 50s, and it was made in that, and that's a big deal to change. So I wasn't suggesting any of that.
Okay, so again, to review, let's have another motion, but let's just to be clear then, we are not asking Lisa to move forward with other 2 with Article
tenses.
1.2. Can you scroll up, Lisa?
Right.
With 5.1. And otherwise to proceed to make the changes outlined in her PDF.
You asked me to exclude 5.1, 1.2, and 5.2.
Where's 5.2? Where's 5.2?
6.2.
I'm sorry, 6.2. Roman
6.2.
numeral.
And the other number 2 clarity.
Yeah, that's nothing is suggested there anyway.
Yeah. So we've got clarity, 1.2, 5.1, and 6.2 will not be made by Lisa. The remaining suggestions will be made.
Will be made with track changes that you can approve. You are concerned about the comma changes.
Correct.
Okay.
If we can get a motion,
So moved.
Moved.
second,
Second.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, Lisa, thank you for bringing that up, and you you brought up what turned out to be an excellent substantive issue too, which you and I will work on a little bit. Go back to briefly to what we discussed at our last meeting. One substantive suggestion or issue that was raised by Amy relates to Article 10, Section 2, relating to a panel of citizens versus a panel of registered voters. Let's take a quick look at that.
What was that section, please?
My notes say Article 10, Section 2.
Whoops, sorry. Sorry. Having difficulty with the scrolling here.
Yeah, I don't think that's the right.
Article, I don't even,
It's 9.
9, this is 9. Section 2,
Yeah.
is this it, water commissioners?
No, I thought you said Article 10, Mark.
Yeah, that's what my notes here say.
Okay,
It's-
here's 10, Section 2,
Right.
right here.
Yeah.
Okay. Hang on. What was being discussed was the opportunity to create advisory committees. And the question was whether advisory committees should consist of a, quote, a panel of citizens or a panel of registered voters.
Hmm.
I remember the discussion. I don't have it's not Article 10.
Yeah, you're right.
I
Before
remember
we,
the discussion too, and it was that if we say a voter, or however we've addressed that earlier, that we're leaving out people in the community who pay taxes but aren't year-round residents that might want to serve on a subcommittee. They can't necessarily serve as a commissioner, but they could serve on subcommittees.
Is
Was
it
that-
possible that this is Article 11, Section 9? There should be a standing policy advisory committee?
no,
No?
no. Lisa, if I can ask you to take, while we talk, to look and see if you can find that. My understanding is that it currently says, the language currently says a panel of citizens. I just would like to throw out there that I think that the issue was raised because another section of the bylaws was changed to indicate registered voters. I don't see any reason why we need to change the language about subcommittees. That is to say, I think it's a good idea to have such subcommittees open to citizens rather than just registered voters. Any thoughts?
Well, I'm looking at Section 6, which talks about our bylaw committee, and it talks about having citizens, but then the Policy Advisory Committee does not specify citizens. Just says the moderator shall appoint. It was, you've lost it now, but it was on that page that we were just
That
looking
article, oh, not,
at,
It was
general.
back in 11, Lisa.
11.6, there shall be a standing committee.
Yeah, so in that one, it talks, the next page talks about appointments.
I'm struggling here with, it jumps 2 pages every time I do this. I'm sorry.
So you got page
Yep,
14
you're good.
Okay.
now?
Okay,
So
so at the top of page 14, it says appointments.
Two at-large members of the
Members of the
district.
district.
Yeah, and then And then down in section 9, it talks about 2 members at large. It doesn't say who they are.
By referring to them as members, I have always read that to mean registered voters because they're the only ones that
Right.
can participate in the annual meeting.
I just think it should be consistent, section 6 and section 9, how we're identifying these at-large people.
But the ad hoc committees that I thought Amy was addressing, I really take your earlier point, Mark. I think I said this at the last meeting. I would not want to exclude non-registered voters who live in the district, even part-time. I think that they would bring a lot of potential expertise or a variety of viewpoints to it.
Other thoughts? Citizens versus registered voters?
Well, I think we're talking about two different things. I think for being on bylaws and for being on policy advisory, it should be registered voter of the district. I think for the ad hoc committees, something like the school committee that is underway, or I forget what else, we have had people on that committee who are not full-time residents in Katuitt, therefore they're not registered voters here, but they still have a very
Our
important
selection committee for
Right.
the new chief. We
Right.
had a number of chiefs from other districts volunteered to help out and participate. You certainly wouldn't want to exclude that kind of outside resource.
Right. So I think they're two different things, but I think we should be using in section 6 and section 9, we should be saying, register voters of the district like we did for the other change. And then when we find the section that relates to the subcommittees, we should say, member of the community, or however it's currently stated, leave it as it is.
Okay, we're all in agreement there, I think. Now the question is tracking down that language. I will take that on myself to track it down, and so we can be a little more explicit about, but essentially, am I correct in saying this, the sense of the group is that standing committees, that is bylaws and policy advisory, should be registered voters, and ad hoc committees should be citizens?
Could be anybody.
Could be anybody. We okay with that?
Yes.
Yeah, as I'm thinking, I wouldn't even want it to be restricted to citizens of the district because, as I said, like the 2 outside fire chiefs that participated in our ad hoc committee for the chief were invaluable assets. Lisa, is there a page 15?
There it is, right here.
There's the ad hoc, section 10. Oh no, whoops, sorry. Guess that's not what she was referring to.
Oh, here
it
we
is.
go.
Section 11. Section
There we
11,
go.
definitely, Rick, that
No,
Prudential
I gave up
Fire
too soon.
may from time to time appoint a panel of citizens of the district to act as an ad hoc committee to study and advise on subjects of interest in the to the
There
district.
we go. And that is Article 11, Section 11?
I know
Yes.
it's section 11. I know what article it is.
It looks
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
Article
1111.
Yeah. But what Rick, you were saying that you would want it to not even say a panel of citizens of the district, because you
Right.
did pull in outside members from outside the
Right.
district. Is there something
Right.
that's separate in contract negotiations for the fire chief that supersede this? Or
No,
does the
not that
ad
I'm
hoc
aware of.
committee falls under these articles?
it falls under these articles. We're
Okay.
empowered to form these ad hoc committees.
Okay.
So we
Well-
need to adjust that, you're saying.
So that's
Yeah,
a good, that's
I
a good
would-
question. Because, you know, as I earlier expressed, sure, a panel of citizens sounds great to me. And when you bring up the particular issue where you used non-citizens of the district, that also seems to make good logical sense. Would we change this simply by deleting of the district? But that does mean that, well, it would require the Board of Fire Commissioners, Water Commissioners, and the Prudential Committee to appoint a panel. So there would be some control over it, but it would require all of those entities to agree, presumably, on a panel of citizens, and they could be from anywhere.
How about just a panel of interested persons?
Or a panel of individuals.
You're gonna get into the concerns of people that might want to say, well, they need to be part of the district, or a percentage should be part of the district, or, you know, I'm just,
Yeah.
you know, it could happen.
Is there some way? Yeah, I could definitely see getting pushback on this. It's like, why should non-citizens, non-voters, non-residents be part of a ad hoc committee to study and advise on subject of interest?
Because
I
it's an
suppose-
advisory group. It's an advisory group reporting to the elected.
You took the words
elected
right out of my mouth.
boards. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think it's, you know, the responsibility rests with the board still.
Right. Mark, didn't your the school subcommittee, didn't we have outside individuals for their expertise, whether there was people that had been consultants at various times that were included in that board? Do I remember correctly?
You
I
are,
wasn't on that.
you are correct, but I believe that everyone was if either a registered voter or a citizen of the district. You know, and because I remember thinking to myself, it's terrific that we have Katuitt residents who have these areas of expertise who can, you know, help on a topic like this. But to your point, you could see where, gee, it would be nice to have someone who happens to live in Mashpee and has an expertise that we would require to be on an advisory committee.
And you say appoint a panel of at-large advisors?
Yeah. How about this? How about if I take a crack at this language and forward it around to everybody?
Works for me.
Good.
Okay. Okay. Can you go back a page, Lisa? Not to create another issue, but look at section 7.
It's the time span that Charlie needs to have the annual report printed. Which would give him
But if
roughly
I'm reading
3
that- 3 and
3 and apart weeks before the annual district meeting.
3 and apart weeks before the annual district meeting. 3 and apart weeks before the annual district meeting. 3 and apart weeks before the annual district meeting. 3 and apart weeks before the annual district meeting. 3 and apart weeks before the annual district meeting. 3 and apart weeks before the annual district meeting. 3 and apart weeks before the annual district meeting. 3 and apart weeks before the annual district meeting. 3 and apart weeks before the annual district meeting. 3 and apart weeks before the annual district meeting. 3 and apart weeks before the annual district meeting. 3 and apart weeks before the annual district meeting. 3 and apart weeks before the annual district meeting. 3 and apart weeks before the annual district meeting. 3 and apart weeks before the annual district meeting. 3 Yeah, we're looking at section 7 here, and it says will be filed with the district clerk within 45 days of the close of the fiscal year, which would be like July or August, right? And
Or
we-
45 days before the end of the year.
Right, they're talking about before the end of the year.
Are we talking about the same thing that you guys just finished and are sending to Charlie? Because I'm not sure why we would have 2 deadlines for the same thing, if indeed this is the same thing. But also, this one says 45 days from the close of the fiscal year.
Sounds like a question for Charlie.
Yeah. Yeah, because this does step all over the earlier section.
Yep. All right, Lisa, you and Charlie are having a conversation. We will ask him about that.
Okay,
But
you're
at
going
the,
to
at the
ask,
very least, there shouldn't be 2 sections dealing with when the annual reports are due.
okay, you're going to ask him about that. I'm only going to be talking about formatting.
Okay, yes. Okay. More and more issues arise as we go along. I'm mindful of everyone's time. We're approaching 7 o'clock. Can people continue, or do we think we have
You
enough
do have
on
to
our
leave
plate?
at 7 for another call. I'm sorry.
I have
Okay,
to
no.
leave at 7 to go to catch a ferry.
Okay. Both seem like great. I have to leave at 7 to make dinner. So,
Okay.
well, that they all seem like good reasons why we should wrap it up. It does seem like we will have to have another meeting after I do a little investigation and make some proposed language changes. This is taking more time than perhaps any of us hoped. But I will do that investigation, make some of the proposed changes we talked about, and set another meeting for ourselves.
And I think
Very
it's
good.
important. I think this is important because every time bylaws in the past has just kind of read them and not really gone into substance. And I think it's time that we look at these, and I don't mind spending the time.
Yep.
Right, bringing the whole package of bylaws into the 21st century in terms of language and format and electronic availability and consistency would be a very good accomplishment for this committee.
I agree.
Totally agree.
I think we have a lot of overtime, Lisa.
Friday,
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Are you? I can't stop the recording until you end the meeting.
Oh, may I have a motion?
Move we
to
adjourn?
Adjourn.
Adjourn, move. So voted, yes.
Seconded. 4.
4, all in favor. Thanks,
Aye.
Lisa. That's it.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.